This is Murder in the Six, Toronto Deadliest Gang War. This might not could go up on YouTube. I'll probably have to start a Patreon. But anyway, I will leave the link in the description below. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you like these videos.
Patreon.com/TraplawRoss, where you can see uncut versions of my videos early for just $2 a month. Thanks very much, and on with the video.
Gunfire breaking out
Sorry
in front
for
of
the
a
fan in the
packed
back.
nightclub. The chaotic scene left 3 people shot, sending a man in his 20s to hospital with life-threatening injuries. 2 others, a man and a woman, rushed to hospital with serious injuries.
They found this victim at the scene, suffering multiple gunshot wounds in life-threatening condition.
Artist has been connecting with fans on social media. There's just one problem. He's also on the run, wanted for murder.
I'm telling them, if they want to meet me, tell John Tory reach out. If John Tory reaches out, I'm linking up with anybody.
One man died on scene. Witnesses say he...
That's y'all problem. Y'all go on social media and post y'all location and post where y'all at, and then they come find y'all, crash y'all goofies. Shout out to Maco for that. Yeah, but y'all post y'all Instagram, your locations, or y'all post on Instagram, and then y'all don't know the cops are watching y'all goofy.
Shot in the head, the other taken to hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. The 3rd victim remains in hospital.
They try to frame me for some shit, nigga.
Are they trying to frame me? Oh, no. Oh, man.
I heard gunshots, and then I could hear like people yelling, and then you heard sirens for a good hour.
At 2 crime scenes, a man and a woman were dead, 3 others injured. The man killed in the club, covered up just beside the pool.
Welcome home.
Our residents heard several gunshots around 10:30 last night. Police rushed here. They found a 28-year-old man with no vital signs. I'm told he shot in the head and actually died, slumped up against the doorway of one of the...
Didn't even have a chance to make it to his 30s. 28? Oh my God. You...
This was the scene last night of the city's latest homicide, where a 29-year-old man was shot dead.
A man masked up right here came, run around, started. Blah, 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 blah.
I know Canada might not be the first place when you think about gangs or drillings. And to many people, Toronto's most famous shooter is that idiot that gave Megan Thee Stallion a leg ass. But make no mistake, people, the streets of Canada are cold. The blocks are hot, and anyone can get it. It's funny, in a lot of ways, the drill scene in Canada has a lot of similarity with the drill scene in the UK. But the reality is, Canada is a lot closer to the US, both geographically and in the locals' ability to access high-powered firearms. But before we get to the firepower, let me first give you a quick geography lesson. First off, you've got America, or more specifically, the Americas, you know, all of them. Then up top, you've got North America. And then north of the United States of America, in North America, is Canada. And in Canada, there are 13 provinces. One of those is called Ontario, and the capital city of that province is Toronto. And the wider surrounding area is known as the Greater Toronto Area, or GTA for short. And I'll tell you what, some of the stories we're going to talk about today sound like they are straight out of GTA 2. I mean, hell, Toronto's crack-smoking former mayor Rob Ford looks like something straight out of Los Santos. Anyway, the city of Toronto is split into 6 administrative districts: Etobicoke, Scarborough, Old Toronto, East York, York, and North York, which is where the majority of today's story will be taking place. But of course, like any story covering a long and illustrious street feud, there's always 2 sides to the story and 2 sides of town. And when it comes to the underworld of Toronto, the city is further split into 2 distinctive halves, with a number of internet hood maps having circulated for years showing the divide between Toronto's up top and down bottom gangs. Meanwhile, there are even more complicated and interactive gang maps that circulate online that can give you a much more detailed and nuanced breakdown of the smaller gang sets that run strips of turf in Toronto's underworld. So today, I'm going to break it all down for you, telling you the come-up story of some of the most famous Toronto rappers to come out of these areas, from Presser to Top 5 to Smoke Dogg to Houdini, and I'm going to tell you about the many shocking murders that some of these rappers witnessed in the streets during their come-up, and I'm going to tell you the tragic stories of some of the people who didn't make it out. There's a lot of sad stories behind it, but the reality is Toronto's rap scene is absolutely booming. I'm excited to tell you everything about it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we're gonna get to all of that, but first, a word from our sponsor.
Ooh, it's your boy VPN, young boy, shout out Atlas VPN. We gon' never browse the net without a VPN again. Look, Atlas VPN's a tool that encrypts all your data and keeps you safe online and hides your virtual location.
Chicago drill-inspired Toronto rap sound as early as 2014 after releasing the breakout track Don't Try Me, coming along with a music video that featured the local hoods of Jane and Finch and Driftwood extensively. But it wasn't just on the mic where Robin Banks was making moves, because he also started the Up Top Movement record label in an attempt to provide infrastructure and a system for his homies from the same area to also put out music. Now, Robin Banks would go on to drop several iconic songs in the Toronto drill scene, like Next Up, Marley's Off of Molly, Club TT, and eventually the Up Top Movement would even drop their Northside Jane mixtape, introducing the world to a whole bunch of Up Top affiliated rappers who from 2015 have all tried to bring a certain kind of Chicago drill energy to their own Toronto hoods. And in my opinion, a lot of the music that's come out of the city is absolute fire. A lot of these guys have dropped trap bangers with hard beats, rapping about all the street goings on in their local area, telling the world for the first time the realities of life growing up hard in the most dangerous area of Toronto. But of course, naturally, that does mean plenty of dissing and smoking on ops. Anywho, some of the other big names that came out of that Northside Jane and Up Top movement include one of the most talented and most famous names associated with Toronto drill, Houdini. In fact, he was clearly destined for greatness in the drill world from early, after going viral as a teenager for posting a picture of him having put Chief Keef lyrics in his literacy test, which Chief Keef himself even retweeted. So Houdini begun his career collaborating on the track 456 along with fellow local rapper Burna Bands. Also on that track was the brother-brother duo, the Tall Up Twins, made up of Double Trouble 4400 and 4400. Also coming out of Up Top, you've got rappers like YG35, YS, GD, FB. You've got another brother-brother rapping duo 21 Neat and 22 Neat, or 22 Filthy, with those two rapping together under the name Neat Gang. But of course, probably the most famous name to have come out of Jane and Finch is the babyface badass Pressa. He's one of the very few and probably the biggest rapper to escape the streets of Toronto completely and go mainstream in music, moving to LA to focus on his career and get away from the violence. Now, Pressa has a crazy
That's good. He got away from his city. Like most rappers or whatever don't leave a city or neighborhood or whatever once they become famous and blow up on social media, in the music world, or whatever. They don't leave it.
From a very young age. His father, Mark Gardner, was a bank robber who went on to commit murder in 1996, apparently calmly shooting a bouncer dead outside of a community dance because he had made him wait too long to get in. Pressa's dad got sentenced to 15 years to life for murder, with a brief attempt to get out of jail thwarted in 2010 when he was accused of still running a gang from behind the wall. In fact, he even managed to get a brief stint on bail, which ironically took place while Pressa himself was in jail.
Yeah, he's still locked up. He came out on probation for like, I don't know, I can't remember, probably like just under a year or maybe, and then he got violated for his parole, so he's still in there now. Actually, when he came out of jail, I went into jail. He came out and he was like answering my calls now, you know?
Anyway, Pressa's dad was
If you standing in a nightclub line and you don't want to wait, walk away. Go to another club. They make plenty more. And now your child, after you got out, your child went in. Bro, half of these people follow in their father's footsteps or their mama's footsteps. Okay? Your child you go to jail, then your child go to jail.
And this is where Pressa's rap name comes from. Prestige Pressa, Prestige Pressa. Now, Pressa himself got his first big debut in the rap game on the 2015 Posse Cut Wasgang. The track itself featured Pressa, Robin Banks, GD, and FB, and was a tribute to their fallen friend Wasi, which is why sometimes you'll hear the G's from these areas referring to themselves as Wasi Gang too. Now, similar to Robin Banks, Pressa and his brother would actually go on to start their own record label, Blue Feather Records. And once his career picked up steam, Pressa went on to have one of the most illustrious careers of a non-singing rapper to ever come out of his city. But we'll get to Pressa's impressive run in the music industry later on. But for now, let's look at some more demons. Because around 20 minutes drive away from Jane and Finch is another notorious Toronto hood named Lawrence Heights, or Jungle. And this is home to Go Get 'Em Gang, aka the GGGs, aka the GGs. This is a feared crew of Toronto hitters, headed up by the self-proclaimed Demon of Toronto Top 5. And his story is crazy. Now, he picked up a lot of steam back in 2014, 15, 16, when he was only 16 years old, when the self-styled Shirt Off Shorty dropped the tracks Hall of Fame with Robin Banks, followed by the track Shirt Off on Any Block. You know, his thing was that he had his shirt off all the time. He was Shirt Off Shorty. And eventually, these Shirt Off 6 hood anthems managed to attract the attention of the Six God himself, Drake, who would give Top 5 shirtless shout-outs on his IG numerous times, as well as even going as far as to shout out Top 5 on hit songs like his collab with Future Grammy, with that shout out giving Top 5 a moment of supercharged clout that he reacted to with sheer delight.
I did not know Drake made that song about him, and I listened to that song as of today.
Drake would go on to film Jungle, supposedly inspired by Top 5's hood, and Top 5 himself would end up spending time personally rubbing shoulders with Drake himself. But don't let that sweet shirtless boy fool you. Top 5 is not to be played with. In fact, he would later go on to claim that all that hanging out with Drake was because he was Drake's shooter.
If somebody that doesn't like Drake comes to the city, we're taking care of that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a shooter, basically.
Yeah. So you the streets.
Oh. Now look, that's all fun and games, but the truth is, Top 5...
Oh my God, and you on Academics channel? Oh my God, I'm saying it. They don't even like academics on social media. Oh my God.
has been attached to some serious crimes. But we're going to get into all of that later as the story goes on. But back to the GG's lineup, Top 5 also had a brother that went by the name Foolish, as well as a homie that goes by the name Flipper, who Top 5 actually collaborated on his 2019 song Drill Some More. And you've also got Top 5's right-hand man 100, who I've personally got a lot of love for purely because he's one of the few Toronto rappers that actually raps over UK drill beats. And just a bit of advice for any Toronto mans that are just trying to blow up real fast. That's what we're trying to hear, man. Jump on those Pop Smoke beats, you're going to be popping. Check out 100's track, Pop Out, you'll see what I mean. In fact, while we're on the topic, I also can't forget the GG's top UK shooter, Roadman Shaq.
Man's not hot right now. You're done now. We're over here, top 5. UK to Toronto. Pull up, come on, man. We come, man. The thing goes scrap.
But really though, I know there's other Toronto rappers coming out of these areas that I could talk about, but I haven't got all day, and these are the rappers and areas that are going to be relevant to the stories that we're going to be talking about today. So before we get into the dangerous feuds that these guys have had on the streets of Toronto, we've of course got to take a closer look at the opposing crews on the other side of town, down bottom. So in opposition to the crews we've just mentioned, there's a number of other hoods around Toronto that have issues with the up top rappers. I've seen some of these crews described as down bottom, but really Toronto's gang politics is kind of complicated, and there's a handful of all splintered little groups having their own little beefs. So I'm just going to make this as simple as possible. But one of the most significant areas on this side of town involved in Toronto street beefs is Regent Park, which is also described as one of the most dangerous areas in Toronto. And one of the most famous rappers coming out of Regent is of course Smoke Dogg. Away from the streets, he'd had an early crack at the rap game around 2014-15, with one of the first songs he dropped being the track Still, aka Rabber. He dropped that track along with his homie Mo G, with both of those guys being members of a crew called the Halal Gang, a set of Islamic Toronto street rappers, which Toronto police classify as having their origins in Regent Park street gangs. Now, along with fellow members like Puffy Els, Safe, and Mustafa the Poet, the Halal Gang had truly put on for their neighborhood and done a lot to drive the Toronto drill sound forward. Smoke Dogg's 2018 track Trap House was a breakout hit for him, putting him on the map worldwide. Now, in addition to Regent Park, Rexdale is another area that's been a rival to Jane and Driftwood for quite some time. Being just over 10 minutes drive from Jane and Finch, Rexdale is yet another area with a feared reputation. The Rexdale Crips have a long history that stretches back decades. In fact, MindSoul6 on YouTube has a great video breaking it down, go give that a watch if you're interested. But here in the modern day, the area of Rexdale has spawned a number of poppin' rappers out of Toronto. This includes Nav, who isn't really in the streets like that, but also the likes of Young Lava and his brother Young Dubs, Ilium Payback, and from the older generation of Rexdale Rexdale G's, you've got the likes of Sizzlack, aka LV, who was from Jamestown, Rexdale, and repped a crew called IDS. Sizzlack had the song Realist in the Six, and apparently his ops in Jane and Finch hated him and was straight up IDSK. And another big name from this area who you will definitely hear referenced in a lot of the opposition's songs is Slugger. Clearly the beef between these Rexdale mans and the crews coming out of Jane and Finch was incredibly heated, and the disrespect for the people that lost their lives as part of this feud continues in music to this day. Now, yet another hood that is relevant to this story is Falstaff 234, who have a long-running beef with Lawrence Heights, aka Jungle. Coming out of Falstaff, you have rappers like Nine, who also raps over UK beats sometimes. His track Too High is a straight-up banger, along with a few other names who aren't really relevant to this story, and another name that you are going to hear mentioned from Falstaff later on is Clutch. And then finally, you got connections on the south side of Jane and Finch, near Turf Grassway, home to the rapper Doovie, who makes fire music, by the way. He's kind of bringing a sort of NBA Youngboy, Lil Baby vibe to Toronto. It's good. So him, along with NHS JJ from South Jane, and they're going to get involved in beef towards the end of this story. Now look, I know that's a lot of people, and I could really go on forever. There's a lot of parts of the city and parts of the story and other rappers that I could talk about, but we've got to draw the line somewhere, and these are the people we're going to be talking about today. So now you know who's involved, it's time to get into the back and forth between these crews, taking a look at the music that's dropped out of these areas, how the Toronto rap scene evolved into what it is today, and unfortunately, the insane amount of bloodshed that had to take place in order to make the scene what it is in 2021. Now, like I said at the start of this video, gangs are nothing new in Toronto, and the cops in the city have been spending decades trying to crack down on and bust the clappers and trappers that run these parts of the city. There was the 2005 Project XXX. These were busts on senior leadership in Rexdale Crip gangs, aiming to break up the so-called Jamestown crew. Then you've got 2007's Project Cryptic, a big bust on the Driftwood Crips, but it was a 2011 bust named Project Marvel, targeting a Jane and Finch-based street gang where our story begins.
Handguns, automatic rifles, and more than $100,000 in cash. Items seized during yesterday's cross-country crackdown.
Yes, in a series of nationwide raids that took around 60 gangsters off the streets of Canada, Project Marvel was the authorities' attempt at disrupting organised crime gangs, running things in Toronto's toughest neighbourhood. The indictment claimed that Jane and Finch gang, the Young Buck Killers, were running drugs, guns and cash all over the city, running the streets so ruthlessly that eventually the cops just had to step in. Around 10 people named in the indictment were young offenders, and this includes a 15-year-old YG and a teenage presser, but it wasn't the teenagers that the cops were really looking to bust. The feds were really trying to throw the book at the senior leadership of the YBK, with the cops' real prize being Presser's older...
Hey! They young!
brother, Kemar Gardner, who would later start rapping under the name Boondog. Court documents allege that Boondog was the leader of the Young Buck Killers, calling them a violent gang and crack dealing operation. And things weren't looking good for Boondog. The court documents even referenced a picture that he had taken of himself posing with a bunch of $100 bills spelling out the initials of the gang YBK. That, along with a bunch of other evidence, would make this case incredibly hard to fight, because when Presser's family home was raided, the cops found numerous guns that were linked to shootings that they tried to tie to Presser and Boondog. In fact, when Boondog went to trial, he was even apologetic to the judge, saying that he wanted to set a better example for his younger brother Presser. Sadly, the remorse didn't really do him any favors, and in the end the judge slapped him with a whopping 10-year sentence for around 14 drug, gun and gang-related charges around 2015. Funnily enough, during the case we found out that informants had allegedly told the police that the teenage Presser was actually next in line to run the gang after his big brother. But funnily enough, Presser wasn't even around when all of this went down.
Oh my god. And now he wasn't around. So they told the cops. So they told the cops that he was the next in line to be the leader? Oh my.
Because he was already locked up for selling dope from his mother's house at only 15 years old.
Yeah, my brother got convicted for organized crime, the Project Marvel YBK raid. That was 2011, the end of 2011. I was currently incarcerated. Like, I was selling crack through my mom's house and stuff, and I could talk about it because I got convicted for it, you know?
Presser ended up doing 14 months for this in a Young Offenders Institute, all the while his brother is getting jammed up and his name is being mentioned in the Project Marvel papers. Presser eventually got out of jail and then had to go on the run for attempted murder, getting caught, doing time, and then beating that AM charge.
You were on the run for attempted murder?
Yeah.
They finally caught you?
Yeah, they caught me. They caught me halfway across the other end of the country. I did end up doing like 9 months in jail. I beat the case.
So basically, Presser spent many years ducking and dodging.
That's kind of like what Lil Durk did, man. Tried to lead a country, but they accused him allegedly.
All the while, people around him on both sides of the city's complicated gang beefs are dying in the streets like it's nothing. Presser would lose one of his closest friends on July the 25th, 2015, when his friend Wasi, real name Kwasi Skeen Peters, was on the run for a double murder that occurred less than a month before. Whilst on the run for these charges, Wasi was eventually caught one night by the cops, who found him sitting in a car outside of a Toronto nightclub. Guns were pulled, and sadly Wasi was killed by the police in a firefight in downtown Toronto.
Over there, around the corner, there's a vehicle with about 7 or 8 or perhaps more bullet holes in it. According to the SIU, it all happened after 2 a.m. and that's when police officers approached a vehicle on Peter Street and an altercation started. Now, somewhere during that altercation, a 21-year-old man was shot.
21-year-old Kwasi Skeen Peters of Toronto was shot by police overnight in the entertainment district.
Girl, I don't know. He was like barely living his life. You feel me? Despite the street stuff or whatever, GTA stuff or whatever, bro. 21, you ain't even really lived your life yet. You barely out of high school, bro.
He's wanted on 2 counts of first-degree murder in the double shooting in a building on Lisgar Street. Now, Abdouali Abdoulaye and Mohamed Abdouel Diri, both 26 years old, were gunned down in a 22nd floor unit of a building on Lisgar Avenue on June the 28th. Another suspect surrendered to police days after the incident.
Of course, the loss of Wasi was devastating for the young guys coming out of the Uptop area. The Tall Up twins honoured his memory with a set of chains bearing Wasi's face, and Presser would later discuss just how hard it was losing Wasi in a moving Vlad TV interview. The loss of Wasi was really the catalyst for Presser's rap career, and as a tribute to their fallen brother, Presser, along with Robin Banks, GD, and FB, would make the tribute song Wasgang. However, while rappers on each side of this street beef begin to make their first significant movements in the music industry, the beef in the street continues on, because only a week after the murder of Wasi, on the 4th of August 2015, a gunman opens fire in the music nightclub where Drake is hosting an after-party for his OVO festival, and this shooting leaves 2 people dead at the scene.
It was almost 3:30 in the morning, also flying shots that rang out, sending thousands fleeing. At 2 crime scenes, a man and a woman were dead, 3 others injured. The man killed in the club, covered up just beside the pool.
Literally, our officers were running towards live fire.
Police were right in the thick of it.
The deceased victims were named Duvel Hibbert and Aurelia Navarro Fenoy, a man and a woman. And the police actually came out to say after the incident that the male victim was known to them from having been convicted of firearm offences in the past. And eventually, the internet detectives over on Reddit's Torontology, which is basically the Canadian version of Chiracology, identified that male victim Duvel Hibbert as Slugger from Rexdale. Now, Slugger was clearly not well liked by some of the Uptop rappers like Presser. He would actually go on to disrespect Slugger in one of his biggest songs to date, saying on attachments that Slugger got hit up in the party and did a dance. As well as going on to say in his song Secondhand Smoke that he passes the blunt to the guy that hit up Slugger. Furthermore, other Uptop rappers like YG posted up on Instagram saying they were smoking Slugger pack. Meanwhile, following that shocking incident at Music Nightclub, Drake himself would send condolences to Slugger and the city, saying that he is plagued and pained by the violence that continues to escalate in his city, saying that he wants to encourage the new generation to show.
But ain't that what Drake from? Toronto? Yeah, Toronto, Canada. That's what Drake is from. Oh my God. Bro, if you want to watch the rest of this video, I will leave it a link in the description below if it doesn't get blocked. You hear me? And I'm out.